Hi everyone. In this video we're going to look at problem A on page 52. 1 minus sine squared divided by cosine. This time it's asking us to use the Pythagorean identities to simplify. So remember, when it's asking us to simplify, we probably don't want fractions and we want our answer to have as few terms as possible. But since this time it's asking us to use the Pythagorean identities, we're going to want to use the Pythagorean identities this time on page 51. Which are these three. Okay, so let's see. So we're trying to simplify 1 minus sine squared divided by cosine. Clearly nothing cancels out right now. So what do our Pythagorean identities help us with? Let's see. So notice we have sine squared plus cosine squared equals 1. 1 plus tangent squared equals secant squared, and 1 plus cotangent equals cosecant squared. Notice that none of these identities really replace any of these things right now. But what if we rearrange something here? Notice on the top here we have 1 minus sine squared. It almost looks like we can rearrange the first identity in order to get 1 minus sine squared. Let's see. So let's go ahead and write down our identity here in the corner. So we have sine squared plus cosine squared equals 1. Now, can we rearrange this equation to look like this, 1 minus sine squared? Yeah, right, because we have 1 here. If we just subtract sine squared on both sides, on this side of the equation, we'll get 1 minus sine squared. So let's subtract sine squared on both sides. That cancels out, because sine squared minus sine squared is 0. Minus sine squared. And now, on the left side of the equation, let's bring down our cosine squared. Equal to 1 minus sine squared on the right side. Okay. So now we have 1 minus sine squared, which is what we were looking for. So let's go ahead and replace 1 minus sine squared in our problem with cosine squared, because we see that 1 minus sine squared is actually equal to cosine squared. So I'm going to replace our numerator, the top, 1 minus sine squared, with cosine squared, since 1 minus cosine squared is the same thing as cosine squared. So this equation actually equals cosine squared divided by cosine. Okay. Now it's a lot easier to simplify. Remember that cosine squared is the same thing as cosine times cosine. So remember, cosine squared is cosine times cosine. And that's divided by cosine. Okay. Now, does anything cancel out? Simplify? Yeah, because we have cosine on the top, cosine on the bottom. Cosine divided by cosine is just 1. So we're left with just cosine. I'll go ahead and write that in red to match. So we have cosine as our answer, because cosine is definitely as simplified as possible. No fractions, and we have 1 term. So that's problem A. In the next video, I'll go over problem B on page 52. Until then, see ya.